On a cold night in late November 2019, in the heart of West Yorkshire, one of the most shocking betrayals in recent British criminal history was about to unfold, a betrayal not by a stranger, but by family. Imagine a man, known in his community as a gentle, hard-working bus driver, leaving work at Brighouse Station, expecting to return home to dinner with loved ones, only to disappear into darkness, never to be seen alive again. This was the fate of 39-year-old Asghar Badshah, a life cut short in the most brutal and senseless way. Welcome to Britain's Dark Files, where we explore the darkest corners of crime in the UK. Before we delve deeper into this chilling case, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because this story will reveal how trust was shattered, justice was pursued, and how one man's descent into violent crime would echo across countries. Asghar was not a criminal. He was described by family and friends as an honest, kind man who simply went about his life, serving the public as a bus driver and supporting his loved ones. But behind the scenes, a dangerous and ruthless world had taken shape, led by someone very close to him, his own nephew, 42-year-old Tahir Syed. Syed had risen to infamy as an international drug trafficker, moving tons of cocaine and heroin into the UK, and running a vast criminal enterprise that stretched from Yorkshire to the continent. In the months leading up to Asghar's disappearance, on the night of 30 November 2019, Syed believed his uncle had stolen a large sum of money from him, a debt he was desperate to recover. Asghar had reluctantly helped, even undergoing a lie detector test in an effort to prove his innocence, but the rift between them only grew. That tension, familial, financial, and violent, set the stage for one of the most disturbing murders the north of England had seen in decades. And it was only just beginning. Asghar Badshah's disappearance on that late November evening sent shockwaves through his family and community. But behind the ordinary streets of Bradford and Batley, a sinister plan had been set into motion, a plan orchestrated by none other than his own nephew, Tahir Syed. Once a young man known within the family, Syed had drifted deep into the criminal underworld, building an empire trafficking cocaine and heroin across Europe and the UK. He had cultivated a reputation for ruthlessness, intelligence, and precision, yet no one expected that his next move would be against the very family who had raised him. Syed's paranoia had grown. He believed that Asghar had stolen a substantial sum linked to his illicit operations, a sum he was determined to reclaim. Over weeks, he studied his uncle's routines, looking for the perfect opportunity to act. Syed enlisted a group of accomplices, men he trusted to help him carry out a plan that would shock the north of England. On 29 November 2019, he lured Asghar away from the safety of his mother's home in Bradford under the guise of discussing the money. Asghar, unsuspecting and trusting, followed, unaware that he was walking into a trap that had been meticulously laid. The journey led them to a deserted, disused bank building in Batley, a place that would soon become the site of unimaginable violence. Inside, the air was cold, and the walls echoed with silence, a stark contrast to the terror that was about to unfold. The calm, everyday life Asghar had known was gone in an instant. The nephew he had trusted had transformed into a predator, and there would be no escape. The tension was palpable, the stakes higher than anyone could have imagined. Inside the cold, abandoned vault of the former Yorkshire Bank, the horror that had been carefully planned for weeks unfolded with brutal precision. Asghar Badshah, a man who had spent his life helping others, found himself at the mercy of someone he had trusted most, his own nephew, Tahir Syed. Over the course of hours, Syed and his accomplices carried out a sustained and violent attack, inflicting severe trauma on Asghar's body. The assault was both physical and psychological, a terrifying ordeal that reflected the depths of Syed's ruthlessness and the extreme lengths he would go to protect his criminal empire. After the attack, the perpetrators attempted to cover their tracks. Asghar's body was wrapped in cloth and hidden behind a false wall inside the disused bank building. For weeks, the vault remained undisturbed, a silent tomb that concealed one of the most shocking acts of family betrayal in recent British history. Neighbors and colleagues were left puzzled and worried as Asghar failed to return home. Calls went unanswered, and the gentle, hard-working man who had been a fixture in Bradford and Batley seemed to vanish without a trace. It was on 29 December 2019, a month after his disappearance, that the grim discovery was made. Police, investigating leads connected to missing person reports and unusual activity at the disused bank, found Asghar's remains concealed behind the false wall. The scene stunned investigators, not only for the meticulous effort to hide the body, but for the sheer cruelty inflicted upon the victim. The community was in disbelief. A family man, tortured and murdered, had been hidden from the world in plain sight. At this midpoint, it becomes clear just how calculated and dangerous Sid had become. The story of betrayal and violence is far from over. If you're captivated by this case, make sure you like and share this video, and stay with us as we follow the international manhunt, arrest, and courtroom justice in the next chapter. In the weeks and months after Asghar Badshah's brutal murder, police and investigators were faced with not just a homicide, but a manhunt that stretched far beyond West Yorkshire. Detectives from West Yorkshire Police, supported by the National Crime Agency, NCA, and the Crown Prosecution Service's Extradition Unit, pieced together the evidence showing that the killer had fled the country almost immediately after the crime. Tahir Syed, a man with deep connections to organized crime and drug trafficking, had boarded a path of evasion that took him across multiple countries. Syed had disappeared soon after killing his uncle, traveling first to the Netherlands, then to Albania and eventually to Turkey, using false documents to avoid detection. While overseas, he continued to operate parts of his drug empire, controlling shipments of cocaine and heroin into the UK, a criminal enterprise worth millions. The hunt for Syed became international, with British authorities issuing warrants and working closely with foreign law enforcement to locate and apprehend him. It was a complex and painstaking effort that took nearly 2 years. On 11 November 2021, after public appeals and intelligence sharing, Syed was arrested in Turkey, ending his time on the run. What followed was a lengthy legal battle over extradition. He fought to remain free in Turkey, but ultimately the courts ruled in favor of British law enforcement, and he was extradited back to the UK in April 2024 to face justice. Once back on British soil, Syed stood trial at Leeds Crown Court beginning in June 2025. The prosecution laid out a powerful case. He was charged with murder, conspiracy to kidnap, and multiple drug conspiracy offenses, revealing both the cruel killing of his uncle and his extensive involvement in organized crime. After a 5-week trial, the jury found him guilty on all major counts on 9 June 2025, concluding that the violence was part of an attempt to extract information about a perceived debt related to stolen drug money. On 13 June 2025, the judge handed down a life sentence with a minimum term of 34 years and 154 days, meaning Syed will spend decades behind bars, a verdict that reflected both the cruelty of the murder and the sophistication of his criminal enterprise. For the Badshah family, the sentence brought some closure after years of uncertainty and pain, and for law enforcement, it marked a landmark victory against international organized crime. With Tahir Syed behind bars, the immediate threat to the community may have been removed, but the reverberations of his crime continue to echo. The Badshah family, shattered by betrayal and loss, has been left to navigate grief that no sentence can fully heal. Neighbors and colleagues still recall Asghar as a kind, dedicated man whose life was taken far too soon, a reminder of how violence can erupt even in the most ordinary and trusted settings. Memorials and family statements highlighted not only the pain, but also the courage it took to endure the months of uncertainty, the international manhunt, and the slow path to justice. Beyond the family, the case sent shockwaves through law enforcement and the wider community. It underscored the dangerous reach of organized crime networks in the UK and the lengths criminals will go to protect their operations, even at the expense of family. Investigators emphasized that the case would serve as a benchmark for cross-border cooperation, illustrating how collaboration between UK authorities, Interpol, and foreign law enforcement can lead to the capture and conviction of fugitives operating abroad. The precision of the investigation, from forensic evidence in the vault to tracking Syed across Europe, demonstrated the resilience and skill of law enforcement in confronting modern international crime. While justice has been served with Syed's life sentence, 34 years and 154 days minimum, the emotional wounds remain, and the tale of betrayal will linger in the minds of those who hear it. Cases like this also highlight the critical role of vigilance, community awareness, and cooperation in preventing such tragedies. As Britain's Dark Files continues to uncover the darkest corners of crime across the UK, we are reminded that the line between ordinary life and horror is sometimes frighteningly thin. Stay with us for more stories that explore truth, justice, and the human cost of crime. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a chilling tale from Britain's underworld.